Pelvic floor issues don't just show up just because you have kids. They show up over time after accumulation of bad habits, injuries, aging, hormonal fluctuations, lack of activity, anything physical activity. Typically, a lot of symptoms happen from a lot of reasons. Like, people that just blame having kids on having pelvic floor dysfunction is simply not true. There's a lot of risk factors that actually go into it. It's often a lot of times neglect, compensation patterns, prior injuries actually of like other joints too. So like hip pain, knee issues, tailbone trauma from like a younger sport that you did growing up, like those types of issues can lead to pelvic floor dysfunction like later in life, right? It's also from like a misunderstanding too, because pelvic floor issues actually often come from misuse of like the restroom habits. So like bladder habits, bowel habits, like straining on the toilet, for example, or something like peeing just in case before you leave the house, or like not peeing in public or being told to hold your bladder for long periods of time. Like those are actually like misunderstandings of how we're supposed to urinate or how we're supposed to have bowel movements. And oftentimes this misunderstanding or just like lack of education or lack of awareness can actually create long-term issues, long-term bad habits, which then can exacerbate issues down the line. So let's talk about how we can future-proof our pelvic health. Your pelvic floor is like any other muscle of the body. We cannot treat it separately like we have been for so many years. Pelvic floor muscles are muscles at the bottom of the pelvis, just like any other muscle group in the body, and they have the exact same muscle functions as any other muscle in the body. They contract, they relax, they isolate one another. Like, you can control these muscles just as much as you can control any other muscle group in the body. These muscles need attention before there's a crisis. Oftentimes, these muscles get no attention until you have to pay attention to them. And that's usually from leakage, bowel issues, prolapse-like issues, or getting pregnant and having a baby. Or something that's like pain, right? You're having pain with intimacy, pain with urination or bowel issues, or just like resting pelvic pain. Oftentimes these issues start to show up or creep up in small ways. And usually they're like a cry for help when you finally realize that like now is the time to actually start doing something. You shouldn't have to wait until pain shows up, until you're having leakage, until you're dealing with prolapse to actually start doing something about it. These issues can be 100% preventative as long as you know what to do, as long as you're educated, as long as you know how to be aware and what to look for, because you can always prevent these issues from coming down the line. And if you do start to have small issues, they don't become a bigger issue. I'm gonna give you 3 tips today on how to future-proof your pelvic floor, and we're gonna get into it right now. First tip is daily mobility or breath work. And I'm not saying like every single day. You do not need to do pelvic floor breath work and relaxation every single dang day. I mean, you should include some level of like mobilizations or like stretching or breath work in your routine at least a few days a week. I'm not 100% the best at this, of course. Like, I don't have mobility carved out in my schedule, but I know obviously a lot more about the pelvic health than most people do, right? Obviously that's my profession. So I incorporate my mobility as like a cool down in my workouts. If I'm doing a heavy leg day, I'm going to end my leg day with like 2 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing, because I know that it can relax the pelvic floor. If we can do something as simple as that, like end our heavy workouts with breath work or mobilizations to the hips, stretching out the hamstrings, the quads. If you're somebody who's like tight muscles all the time around your pelvis, then maybe daily mobility is on your docket, right? But for me, it's a couple days a week. It's maybe my pre-workout routine, or maybe it's my post-workout like cool down. I wholeheartedly recommend this because if we have better range of motion of our hips and we have good breathing mechanics, we can get better range of motion to the pelvic floor. This is preventative. This is future proofing. When we're strong and mobile, then we have less likelihood of developing all of these issues down the line. Number 2, lift with intention. So if we're lifting with intention, This means that strength training is not the enemy. And I've had many videos over this already. Strength training is one of the best forms of movement for the pelvic floor. And let me explain why. Because movement is medicine and exercise and loading is double medicine, right? The more and more we strength train, the more our body actually can get stronger. And the stronger we get, the more future-proofing of our pelvic floor we actually do get, right? What is bad about lifting and what other people won't tell you, they'll just tell you to stop lifting. What's bad about lifting is when you have really poor form and poor coordination and compensatory mechanisms, compensatory patterns. That is when lifting, especially with heavier loads, gets a bad rap. And I'm not here to say that lifting and that is like a world that people don't do that. Like people definitely have bad form, compensatory patterns, and incoordination all the time. And there are people that do that and don't have any pain, don't have any issues. But you're going to get the other side of the coin where people do have issues and they do all of those things. So what I'm saying is when you're lifting with intention, strength training is not the enemy. You just need to focus on good coordination, good movement patterns, right? Don't compensate. Don't round your back the whole time when you're supposed to be having like a neutral spine, right? There's things to be mindful of. Breath work, using your core, using your glutes. Like these are the things that you want to be mindful of when you're actually exercising. So that way lifting is not the enemy. It's just how you move, right? It's how you execute the lifting. The lifting part is not the enemy. But lifting, like I said before, keeps you strong. And when you're strong, you are future-proofing your pelvic health. And the last thing, number one importance, I feel like for everybody, is bowel and bladder health. And what I mean by bowel and bladder health is very, very, very simple, because when we're taking care of our bowel and bladder health, it's, usually you think about it like on the toilet, but think about how much time we spend on the toilet every day, all day, not actually all day, every day, the rest of our lives. We're going to be on and off the toilet the rest of our lives, whether we like it or not, right? So when you're on the toilet, what good ways can we set ourselves up for success? Can we reduce straining as much as possible? And I'm talking, yes, urination and bowel movements. You've probably heard me talk about getting a squatty potty for on the toilet. But number one, stop straining. You don't need to push to get anything out. If you are struggling to get some things out, there's probably a reason for it. Often pelvic floor tension. But we need to relax those muscles on the toilet. And when you're straining on the toilet, you're more likely to actually push down, bear down into the pelvic organs, into the pelvic floor. And oftentimes when you're bearing down, there needs to be kind of like a met pressure kind of back up, so that way you're not like losing everything out of your body. Oftentimes the pelvic floor, you're straining through those muscles that are kind of combating that pressure coming down. So when you're bearing down, you're weakening and lengthening those muscles that should be supportive. And when you're on the toilet, we want those muscles to just be completely relaxed. We don't want them working to combat any pressure coming from above. We just want those muscles to literally be relaxed so things can just easily come out. So when you're straining on the toilet, it's not a good thing long term. It can actually lead to issues like prolapse and leakage and pelvic tension down the line. So number one, stop straining. Number two, stop hovering over the toilet. I know. Public toilets are just the most disgusting things in the world. They've done some research and the toilets at your house are actually dirtier than the toilets in public. So I promise you, sit your booty down on the toilet and you will have a much easier time having urination or having a bowel movement or urinating on the toilet. Make sure you are sitting down. And if you're that grossed out, then lay some toilet paper around it. Lay the little freaking, whatever you call it, the plastic wrap around the toilet. I don't care. Do whatever you gotta do, as long as you sit your booty down, okay? That is number two. That way you can allow your muscles to relax. Number three, stop peeing in the shower. Please stop peeing in the shower, right? Like, just don't do it. You're more likely to push. You're more likely to strain. You're not relaxed. You're often in a rush. Like, just allow yourself to urinate or have a bowel movement. Please don't have a bowel movement on the toilet in the shower. Do people actually have bowel movement? No. I'm going to pretend that they don't. Please just urinate on the toilet, okay? Like, let's just go back to that. Like, just sit on the toilet before you get in the shower. It's not a big deal. A couple extra seconds, whatever it is, just allow yourself to relax enjoy the movement, right? Enjoy the restroom that you're supposed to be resting on, and quit rushing. Just quit rushing. Your body will thank you long term. You're going to future-proof your pelvic floor by stopping doing this. Like I said, I hope these 3 tips were super helpful. Prevention is so powerful. There's a lot of things that you can prevent down the line, especially if you're young, you've never had kids, you're planning to have kids, or maybe you're older, you've already had kids, and now you're starting to see these issues come up. Okay, you are still in the prime of the time to do some of the things that are preventative so you don't have issues maybe in your 70s, your 80s, If you want to stay strong in the long haul, start implementing these tips today. And if you have any more questions, any more concerns, drop them in the comments. I'm loving helping people all over the world be able to solve their pelvic floor issues. So if you ever have comments, concerns, drop them in the comments. And then the last thing I will say, if you want more tips on this, if you found this super helpful, I have an entire free community on school.com, and it's called the Pelvic Wellness Academy. And there are so many good things in there. There's a lot of courses. There's a lot of free challenges. There's a 2-week free exercise challenge for your core and pelvic floor. There's a ton of resources in there. And if you are not taking advantage of it, you probably should. I'm going to put the link below. So if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, drop them below. But make sure you hit that link so that way you can join our free group. And if you have any more ideas, topics, things that you want me to talk about, also let me know below. And make sure you do not forget to like this and subscribe it. And maybe send it to a friend that you know is straining on the toilet. Okay? See you next time.